to burn the studio down. Morning.
Hey, good morning, babies. It's too early. Babies.
Who are they?
The babies.
What's that?
I'm saying hello to every baby because it's a new year and the new year comes in as babies.
Yeah. Well, it's not the new year yet because we've still got one more thing.
I'm anticipating the BBs and the babies.
Okay, that's fair.
Good morning, BBs. It's too early.
It sure is.
Welcome to the first, best, and only morning show in existence. I'm Anthony Carboni.
And I'm Saige Ryan.
Everybody, please say good morning to the baby.
Everyone, greet the babies. Hi, y'all. It's very good to see you because it is the week of the year.
Woo! That intro just gets better and better every time we use it.
If there is an echo, maybe we're on the wrong mic source or something?
I don't know. Everything's going to be fine. Listen,
I don't know.
Everything's cool. Because Darren Plays Bad says, I love all four hosts of this show.
Awesome.
So
good.
That's the correct answer to loving an echo.
Got it?
Hey, good morning, BBs.
Good morning.
Good morning, BBs
Happy
and
week
babies.
of the year. If it is your first time joining us for the week of the year, this is our second annual. All week, we are going to be rounding up the things that we loved the most in 2023. And we do this broken down into 3 different episodes.
That's right. The first one, which is today, is our favorite sort of things of the year. And what does that mean? That's like nothing. What does that mean? Shut up, because we're going to tell you about what the rest of the year is about.
In no particular order.
Yeah, in no particular order.
We will be talking about our favorite movies and TV shows on one episode.
And then our games of the year, of course, because this is a video games news show ostensibly.
Yeah.
You know? Though, listen, every day we move farther and farther away from the Dorito Pope's light.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I've been getting real close to saying we shouldn't say news anymore.
Yeah, and listen.
It's a fun bit, but it's not a news show.
And what about video games? I think they're fine. What if we moved away from video games mostly? You know?
We already kind of did.
That's what I'm saying.
We didn't really. We do love video games.
Look.
I promise. But I will say this is a hanging out with Saige and Anthony in the morning show. Travis McElroy in the chat said, wait, I thought Travis McElroy was going to be here. Where is Travis? What an excellent question.
That's exactly the question that you would expect to come from Travis.
Well, at 9:30...
That's the most Travis thing I've ever seen.
We will be joined by Travis McElroy, who will also be rounding up favorite things of the year with us.
So when we say things, you'll see, but it's basically anything that's not media, anything that doesn't fit.
Anything that's not a movie, a TV show, or a video game.
That's right. Things that just fit into our lives that we really enjoyed this year.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be so good.
Before we get into the full episode of it all, I did want to acknowledge that there is a really big event going on today. And we debated back and forth a lot about how to handle such a thing. There is a strike going on for Gaza. Now, a lot of people are choosing to not go into work today. And I think that especially in situations for people who work for big corporations, that actually makes a lot of sense. We also understand that if that's not something that's applicable to you because you would lose your job and your financial security, people that are organizing this strike also understand that.
That's right. Some people are some people are not purchasing anything today. Some people are taking whatever form of protest feels appropriate to them.
Yes.
And that can be as much or as little as feels appropriate to you.
Yeah. So personally, I will be abstaining from participating in the economy today. But what I also wanted to do is direct you that if today you were thinking about something like subscribing to the show or donating, I would rather direct you to a good cause. So I'm going to be posting a link here to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund.
That's right.
This is an organization that has a bunch of different funds within it that they're showing right now, including immediate relief for Gaza.
That's right. We checked them out on. They've got a solid rating on Charity Navigator. They're doing what they can. Remember, this strike it's pro ceasefire, and that is the extent of what you have to believe in. Is that there is too much violence and that a ceasefire needs to happen. Anything above and beyond that, but it's for a ceasefire, and I think everybody
That is
can
a
agree
bare
that that's
minimum.
I think everybody can agree that that in itself is super important.
Yeah, this came up as America just used their veto power to strike down support of a ceasefire.
That's right.
Which is, I have no problem saying, absolutely fucked. Unfortunately, unsurprising, and yet devastating every time.
Yeah.
Which is a way I often describe America. So with that in mind, observe how you choose to observe this strike. I'm not going to say there are no wrong ways, because there are, but at the end of the day, it is not black and white thinking. It is not do all or do nothing. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, if I have to do this and I had to go into work today, then I can't do anything at all. And there are still things that you can do.
Yeah. Little things. I mean, listen, every little thing adds up. And even if you view this as like, I'm not going to purchase anything, I'm not going to participate in the economy today. I think that is a particularly huge message to send to the American government and to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because God knows there are a lot of economic-based decisions being made in this conflict.
You can vote with your wallet. And we've shown time and time again that strikes do work. Even recently, people abstaining from both strikes and like boycotts, essentially. People abstaining from Starbucks purchases have made a massive impact.
In 2 days of boycotting Starbucks, their stock dipped 9%.
Yeah.
That's billions and billions and billions of dollars.
So you have a lot of power. And we just wanted to say that at the top of the show. We are a small independent business, and we're not working for any corporations today. And like I said, I'm going to observe personally, I'm going to be abstaining from any purchases that I would normally be making today. So when we are talking about our favorite things today, if any of them are purchasable, don't do it today.
Don't do it today.
Don't do it today.
Make a little note of it.
Make a little note of it if you want to.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
Oh, it was a weekend.
Yeah?
Yeah. I
Same.
forgot it was a weekend.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was.
It was.
It
Zipped
was.
right by.
Oh, I saw the new Godzilla.
Godzilla -1?
I did. I saw Godzilla -1.
I hear it is fantastic.
You know who else thinks it was fantastic? Good morning,
Mothra?
Josh.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Godzilla, fantastic, wonderful, amazing. Go see it.
Yeah, Josh was one more time. Yeah, it is. Yeah, week of the year every time we go back to the main camp.
No, it's good.
Woo!
No, it's good. It's a good intro.
I think they can still hear us during it.
Yeah.
Hi, Alex in the chat. So yeah, I saw it. It was fantastic. The action is great. The visuals are fantastic.
He's got that. He's got the glow up. He's got the pink breath weapon.
He's got to glow up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give any spoilers for
No.
Godzilla -1, but it was really, really fun. Yes, best intro, and we can hear you. I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There is no shorter version of that intro.
Nope.
We're going to do it every time.
How was your weekend?
Decent. Decent.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. It
Both of us had a real thrilling weekend.
It was all right. I spent some of it taking care of some health things, but other than that, very, very lovely. Played some Sea of Stars finally.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
After that Game Awards win.
You know, everybody had been saying you got to play Sea of Stars, and then when it won, I was like, man, that really is like that's a big like blind spot in my list for this year. I really need to check it out.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's really good. I'm just not a JRPG guy.
Okay.
You know I'm not a
Interesting.
JRPG guy, and I'm not like a turn-based guy. And so, but I played it and I was like, yeah, this is really excellent.
It's weird that you're not a JRPG guy. Everything about you says that you should be.
I don't believe that navigating endless menus is a video game. That's doing taxes. I don't want to do my taxes ever, but especially not every day during my leisure and enrichment time. My ADHD is such that I need to push button, see character do something.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't do tactics games either.
Okay.
You know, anything that's based on a grid, I can't do.
All right.
I don't know. It's just not for me.
That's acceptable.
But you don't do turn-based stuff either, do you?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
No, it's just your personality says JRPGs should be appealing to you. But I understand that.
Because I'm a giant aging weeb?
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Because you're a big old dork.
Because I'm a big old dork.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just an anime boy when it comes to stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, speaking of anime boy, I am now in season 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just absolutely tunneling through it.
It's amazing what you can do when you're not allowed to move very much. So I have been watching a lot of JoJo.
Yeah.
And I'm on season 4. And I'll say this, Giorno Giovanni is not an interesting JoJo. Season 4 is not interesting, but it is beautiful. It's the most beautiful season of all of them so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I've watched absolutely zero JoJos. Not one single Joe.
I'm trying to figure out whether you would like it or not. I think it could go either way.
Okay.
You would have to be in a particular mood when you watched it the first time.
Okay.
And if you weren't, you wouldn't like it.
Interesting.
Because it's very shonen, but it's also very gay and making fun of shonen in a way. But I don't know.
You had me at gay.
I know.
You had me at gay.
And the further on you go, the gayer it gets.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, but is it gay or is it implied gay? Because anime, very rarely actually gay, often implied gay.
Yeah, no, I think what it is you are watching Araki, who's the creator of JoJo. I feel like you were watching a 30 years of him grappling with the fact that he's somewhere else on the spectrum than he thinks.
Okay.
And it becomes more outwardly sort of gay as it goes on. In the beginning, it's one of those things.
So do I.
Yeah. In the beginning, it's one of those things where you're watching and it's like, do they know?
Yeah.
Like, do they know that they're...
Yeah.
It's not for me to tell them that they're...
Yeah, I remember everyone doing that to me, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like...
Yeah,
it's not
I
for
remember
me,
that phase.
It's not for me to tell them, but I'm here to support them if they want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to like season 4, it's like, pucker up, buttercup.
So true. That is the journey. Well, hey, everybody. We're just doing a little intro for you because it is already time to go and retrieve our lovely guest.
Ooh.
Very exciting. So we're going to take a BRB for a couple of minutes. Stick around, hang out with us. Don't go anywhere because when we come back, we're bringing in Travis McElroy to talk about our favorite things of the year.
Never heard of him.
We'll see you in just a second.
Oh, Travis. First of all, congratulations on finding a castle in Ohio and then somehow turning that castle into a venue and selling out that venue. What is going on?
Yeah.
Tell me
The
about
Adventure,
the castle.
Adventure Quest is an event that I've been putting together for a year now. You can get all the information at theadventure.quest. We're going to Ravenwood Castle in Hocking Hills, Ohio. I'm bringing some amazing guests, including Iffy Nawadaway and Sandeep Puri, Christina Ariel, Paul Foxcroft, and more.
Never heard of them.
Gaming sessions and a
We love
bunch
them
of
all
stuff.
very much.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
And I got to tell you, as somebody who is also who also hails from Ohio, I didn't even know that we made castles in Ohio.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were castles
Yeah.
in Ohio either.
What?
Yeah.
Who lived in this castle, Travis? Why does this castle exist?
Well, it was built in 1990 as a bed and breakfast / hotel.
That's
And
very
so
recent.
that's-
So this is a
Yeah.
new cast. I thought perhaps there was some sort of like despicable Dark Lord of Ohio that everyone had forgotten about. Some
There
gothic
might
lord.
be. I'm not saying there's not, Anthony. But not at this. This is a lovely castle run by lovely people.
Okay.
What I see is the possibility in the future.
yeah.
What I see is
Oh, yeah.
Travis's opportunity to become the Dark Lord of Ohio.
Listen, there might already be some things in place, some wheels moving towards that end, but
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
feel like the Dark Lord would have so much lush plant life and such an aquarium setup, though.
You're right.
It's a bit of I don't know.
Dark is more about my tones, my skin tone, like what I wear, what matches. I'm kind of a winter.
Yeah, like a jewel tone.
Yeah, like a
the
jewel
jewel
tone.
tone
Yeah, right,
Lord
yeah,
of
yeah.
Ohio.
I'm more emo lord, maybe the emo lord of Ohio would be
yeah.
a better way to go.
So, I mean, listen, this thing sold out so quickly. I mean, obviously you still have to run it, but yeah, sure. Yeah, you can't, I mean, you can just take the money and run, and a lot of people on the internet do. But
yeah, I was talking to my friend Logan Paul, and he was like, just do it.
Yeah.
He's like, all you got to do is pretend to murder yourself in front of children,
Yeah.
and they'll never.
That'd be great.
You can just run away with their money.
Yeah.
But I would imagine this is the sort of thing where you are already thinking, in case people missed it, that maybe it's going to happen again. Maybe you'll do other events like this.
Yeah. We're very excited about it, and obviously people are excited about it as well. And so we've already started thinking towards the future.
Good.
Exciting. How wonderful. Well,
Thank you.
Aside from, I'm sure this is taken
before
up.
we move on though, there is one thing that I want to talk about that's happening right now.
let's do it.
Every year, me and my brothers and the whole McElroy family do a fundraiser for Harmony House in Huntington, West Virginia, which is a shelter for people who are experiencing homelessness. And we do a holiday special every year called Candle Nights. It is December 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be debuting live, but it is pre-filmed, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We've got lots of great guests and segments and everything, and tickets are only $5. And if it all proceeds go to charity, but if you want to wait till tomorrow to buy your tickets, we totally understand. Mm-hmm. But it is bit.ly/candlenights2023. Okay. As I said, all proceeds go to Harmony House. It's a super fun holiday tradition. You're going to love it.
All right.
Beautiful. Sounds like, listen, it sounds like a lot of your, I know for you guys, it's been a big year because, this is one of the first years that y'all have been able to tour again in a big way and do live shows again in a big way. So I'm sure that's taken up a lot of your time this year, but what else have you been up to this year, Travis? What are some of your...
What are other favorite things?
Yeah. Tell us about one of your favorite things of the year, Travis.
I got really into YouTube commentary channels in a big way.
Ooh, we love YouTube commentary channels.
I came to it real late.
So much so Anthony lost his headphones.
But the best part about coming to it late is there's like years and years, there's a decade worth of video.
There's nothing better than seeing I just watched a Harris video and I've got 10 years of Bomber Guy to go back through.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, man. I've been doing Jarvis Johnson lately, and I'll watch a video and be like, it's 3 years old. Whatever he's commenting on is definitely not happening right now.
God, the golden days of the Storytime channels and the animated Storytime channels and Jarvis is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Got into Eddie Burback, Tara Mooney, just a lot. I just love them. I love Anna Forcino. I just love them. I love it's become a recent 9 month long, I say recent, hyperfixation of just putting them on and listening while I do other things.
Yeah.
Sometimes just not watching them, obviously, but listening to them like podcasts while I'm driving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a good balance of that. It's really, really fun.
Okay, so what is the type of title that will always make you click? Because we know which YouTubers, right? Everybody has their oh, these are my commentary people. But the way that I find new commentary channels is usually based on a topic that I know is almost always interesting for me. So for me, that's internet culture.
Yeah.
When people are oh, we're deep diving into, I don't know, the 2000s clip art of
anything that's Y2K era, Y2K society and the growth of tech culture, you're really into.
So Travis, what's yours? What'll always get you?
I'm usually a sucker for this 2000s reality show is the wildest thing you've ever seen.
Yes.
Right? That kind of deal where this person really embarrassed themselves. Anything where it's an expose on a person.
Oh my God.
Also gets me. I have watched a lot of CoffeeZilla this year of just these are scams. And I'm way into that.
Yeah.
Dude, sometimes I only learn about things. I don't even know who the person is until I'm watching the video about their downfall. And I'm it's wild that this was allowed to happen.
Yeah. I think that's how it started, is I started watching videos because I was a relative latecomer to YouTube. And so the YouTube kind of lineage, right? The YouTube tree of creators leading to creators. I came to it so late. And so I'm watching videos where it's just this guy started in 2005 and by 2012 he was completely disgraced. And I'm I have no idea who that is. Tell me everything about him. I'm way into that stuff.
It feels back in the day you would have this similar things about movie stars and like big rock stars and musicians and things like that. And now it's so wild to think that you get these like 10-year retrospectives of people who are YouTubers and who are scamming people for like a decade on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild to think that we're at that point where you could have been scamming people for a decade on YouTube. And I think about that sometimes because I should have been scamming people for 10 years.
Right.
On
And
YouTube.
now it's like, did I miss the window to scam
Why
on
have we been
YouTube?
scamming.
Yeah, I could have, but I do think we're in a good time for YouTube because YouTube goes through different eras. And this commentary creator era, there's a little bit of like, on the lower end of it, people trying to create some commentary and some drama where there isn't.
Sure.
But for the most part, I do like this commentary era because you get deep dives into all the useless neurodivergent obsession things that I love anyway. And I'm just like, thank God somebody else wants to talk for 4.5 hours about this one holiday special nobody remembers.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I love about it too is it's kind of a lot like acting and comedy and a lot of like creative fields where if you don't know the skill set that goes into making it good, people are like, I could do that. This is like you're watching a reality show, they're being like, this is wild. And it's like, no, if that's all you're doing, that is not good or interesting. And then you get the commentary people who's by their very nature of being insightful or creative or some combination of all these skills, they're elevating the thing that they're talking about. It's my favorite thing in the world when it's like a topic that I couldn't care less about. But the interest the person has in it makes it interesting to me.
Yes.
And like anything where it's just like, okay, I didn't care about this before, but you're speaking about it so passionately and like focused that now I'm like, yeah, I didn't realize that was so interesting.
I listened to a video essay this morning while I was getting ready. I don't think I've gotten ready without, it's still pulled up on my YouTube right now.
What's
this is a Nintendo DS retrospective from Liam Triforce.
Yes. I love Liam.
Yeah. So I love a games retrospective.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
I love especially like Flash games, Nintendo DS game retrospectives, GameCube game retrospectives. Fantastic.
Anything, when you were talking what title pulls you in, if something says a lengthy retrospective, I'm probably there. I'm probably in for a half a day.
They can always get me too with like the nostalgia games, like the online nostalgia games of my childhood. You can always get me with Neopets. You can always get me with Webkins. You can always get me with like Girls Go games, stuff like that. Every time
I'm looking back through my history, and it seems that if it starts with the most such and such on the internet, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch that. Yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Surely it can't be the most.
I've loved
There's
the
no
reality
way.
show ones too. I watched people do one going into that like Legally Blonde one that they did. I've watched ones tearing apart America's Next Top Model.
Yeah. Oh, Trav, you're a theater guy. Do you watch Waiting in the Wings?
Oh, Waiting in the Wings.
Are you familiar with Waiting in the Wings? Oh, I'm so excited we get to bring this to you.
The best 2-hour-long video about the failed Spider-Man stage play awaits you.
Buddy, turn off the dark with us.
I know of Turn Off the Dark. Waiting
in the Wings.
I'm gonna write that down real quick.
Does really in-depth about everything. Like all the history, not just of that, but of like the first time I saw a deep dive about the Beetlejuice musical and I was like, oh, the Beetlejuice musical looks really good was because Waiting in the Wings showed it. And also Waiting in the Wings also did like a whole thing on Star Kid and YouTube musicals and like how that evolved.
Yeah.
It's, man, where's the place? And I know it's probably like, people will tell you that it's probably some Reddit or something, but a subreddit, but I want just a place where people are just sharing every day one incredible YouTube essay.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to like put in their favorite YouTube essay
like a
that they
book
found
club.
that day. Yeah, like a book club.
Like a YouTube book club.
essay
Which is
book
very
club.
funny because sometimes YouTube video essays are about a book I haven't read. I love to watch a YouTube video essay about a celebrity memoir I'm never going to read.
Yes.
I think my favorite right now that I'm a real sucker for is anything where it's just like it's usually a dude podcast or like a dude TikTok or something where it's just like so misogynistic to the point of being an unintentional parody of itself.
Yeah.
And they post these things that they feel are like real W's. And you're just like, why would you post that? Like, can you, like, you're not even, you don't have any perspective on that whatsoever. There was one recently, been making its rounds on TikTok of this dude talking about like, hey, single guys, you want to know what it's like to be married? My wife sent me to get the ingredients to make these like pumpkin bars that she made every year. And I noticed that there wasn't pumpkin on the list. And I tried to call her and she didn't answer. And I tried to call her again and she didn't answer. So I got the ingredients on the list and then I left. And then she called me and she was like, we do need pumpkin. Can you go back? And I was like, what? No, I already left. And now she's mad at me. And it's like, why did you post that? Did you really sit there and think like, this makes me look awesome?
Yeah.
This makes me look like a cool dude. And it's like, she asked you to go back. Go get it. Are you
And
on
you
your way to
noticed
surgery?
it.
What are you talking about?
Right. And you noticed it while you were there and we're like, doesn't sound like my problem.
Yeah. And also,
A can of pumpkin is like $1.50.
Right. Worst
like,
case, you
buy
have two.
the pumpkin.
but here's the thing that's the wildest about it is the forced lack of knowledge, like the forced, like,
Yeah.
this is simply not something for a man to know. And so I will not use the entire sum of human knowledge that is on my phone
what we call that?
to look up another fucking pie recipe. So I know generally what we need.
We call that
Yeah.
weaponized incompetence.
Yep. Weaponized incompetence.
There's a thing too it's like a dude podcast and they'll like ask women what they think are like really clever gotcha questions where it's just like, if you found a man who was guaranteed not to cheat on you, but all he asked is that you never went out with your friends, would you say yes? And they're like, what? No. And like, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Exactly.
what is that?
What is, no. It's honestly, it's a real choice. You can only have one or the other. There's
Hey,
no other way for it to happen.
Would you saw each of your fingers off individually for basic human treatment by your partner? No. Well,
Seems weird.
There it
Seems
is.
weird. You only have 10 fingers. Seems weird. But no, when people do like long-term takedowns of those people, when you see like
Chad.
Chad
does a great
Oh, I
takedown.
love it so much. Huge
Chad will
fan.
destroy
Big
those
fan.
dudes. Yeah, I love that stuff.
What a strong start.
Yeah.
You hit what you got your first on the list hit for all of us.
Yeah. Why don't we go? Do you want to go you next or me next?
Sure, I'll go next.
You go
I've
next.
got one that doesn't have to hit for everybody.
Okay.
Mine's drugs. It's Adderall.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, I just started Adderall this year.
Hey, I also started this year. I got diagnosed with ADHD 4 months ago now. And oh my God. Yo,
Yeah.
it's
First of all,
great here.
Mazel tov. Congratulations to both of you. Welcome. It's a wonderful place to be.
Well, okay, I want to clarify. It's a Concerta when I did Ritalin and then Concerta, and then I
Okay.
was off it from basically 22 to 35, and then or 33, and then started back on Concerta, and it made me an irritable little piece of shit.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Yep,
then
heard
I was
that,
like,
yeah.
wait a minute, maybe that's why I was so irritable as a teenager when I was taking Concerta. So then I switched to Adderall, and it was a game changer.
Adderall's amazing. I had to do a little bit of Ritalin as well when I was a youth, and it was the same thing for me. It didn't work, and so I was like, well, clearly this is not for me, and I don't need this. And they were wrong.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to like being 30 and being like, maybe I'll give it a shot. And it was
Yeah.
just the wrong medication. They
Yeah.
didn't do Adderall for people yet.
I feel so lucky that I feel like we got it right the first try. I know so many people that have like bounced around trying different medications to get it right. I feel incredibly lucky that I am apparently like the prime candidate for Adderall. I've had like no negative side effects. It's great.
Amazing.
I did forget it this morning, which is why it made my list, because I was like, man, I miss how I feel with it. So that's making number one on the list. It's making number one on the list because I forgot it at home this morning. But it truly, like, getting diagnosed with ADHD was a highlight of my year in that, like, damn, shit didn't have to be so hard all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's notoriously underdiagnosed in women.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can present differently, and other times it's so. I don't know if Saige, I don't know if you know about this, but sometimes life is harder for women, and sometimes people don't take their medical and psychological concerns seriously.
Now wait a minute,
I know.
Travis.
I know.
Now wait a minute.
I found out about this from YouTube.
No, America. No,
From a YouTube video.
America has a long and storied tradition of listening to women's health concerns and responding to them in a sane way, starting with Dr. Kellogg.
Yeah. One time I went to a doctor to get my lungs checked and they referred me to a psychologist.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because she was clearly imagining things.
Yeah.
It was a yellow wallpaper situation.
Yeah, I went in and I was like, hey, I feel very bad. It was February of 2020 and I was incredibly sick. Who knows what that could have been. And I was like, ooh, my lungs aren't working right and I can't breathe ever. What's going on? And they were like, do you sleep well? And I was like, no. And they were like, see a psychologist about it before we do any medical testing on you.
Why don't you try not being crazy and then come back?
Sounds like hysteria.
Sounds like your uterus is moving around weird.
Right. Yeah, just floating throughout the body.
Yeah.
So yes, my first thing of the year is Adderall, which is very funny.
I Read Earth in the chat says, you breathe crazy.
Yeah, you just breathing crazy.
Stop breathing crazy.
Quit it. Absolutely quit it. But I got very lucky. I did get a female psych that I met with. And there is a very common thing where ADHD does present differently in women. And there was like parts of that on this presentation that she did for us that was like, here's a way that it commonly presents in men, and here's a way that it commonly presents in people that were like socialized feminine, the ways that like women learn to mask it in different ways because of what is like socially acceptable and not acceptable for girls. And she was like, you also have all of the signs boys do though.
Yeah.
She was like, you in particular actually,
You're just a real tomboy when it comes to ADHD.
Early,
I'm
just
not
one
like
of the guys.
Girls. I have visible mental disability.
No,
Instead of a pick me, you're look at me.
Yeah, you remember in the beginning when we were talking about how we're not in the beginning of the show when I said we're not allowed to tell Iraqi that he might be somewhere else on the spectrum than he thinks he is.
Yeah,
it's sort of like that when you meet other friends who are neurodivergent.
Yeah,
and you're just like, I am here and I'm supporting you. And you don't know why I'm here and supporting you yet. And when you're ready to have the conversation, we can have that.
Just so you know, I distinctly remember that moment because please go on. Okay. I was in Anthony's apartment and I was like, I think I might have ADHD. And his response was, you didn't know that?
Yeah. I was like, oh, you didn't know. Okay.
That was 2020.
Yeah.
That was 3 years ago now. And a lot of people had been like, oh, maybe. Okay. Yeah, you might have ADHD. But Anthony just being like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. I thought you knew.
Multiple times I've had the experience of like talking with a new friend about like my experience. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 7 years old, right? So like the last 33 years have been me like learning about it and, you know, learning who I am with it and all this stuff. So I'll talk about my experience with it. And they'll start to be like, oh, that happens to me sometimes too. Oh, I feel that way sometimes too. Oh, yeah, I do that too. Yeah, that's it. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's shift. How often do you do that?
Yeah.
How intense does that feel? How often does that create a problem for you when it comes to this situation, this situation?
Yeah. Travis,
and they're
like, I brought a
wait
worksheet.
a minute. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I brought a worksheet, and if you just want to check it out, like, you know, just 1 to 5.
You should go
1
talk
to
to
5.
somebody about this.
Do you ever feel as though you were driven by a motor? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is the weirdest and most outdated, I think, question on the ADHD
I didn't
panel.
get that.
It's like, do you ever feel as though you are driven by a motor and not yourself? And it's like, what?
I mean,
like I have an
weird.
internal steamboat? Like, what are you talking about?
I have a very specific way I describe how my brain works, which I think is actually probably exactly that realistically, but I describe it as there's a scene from SpongeBob where he's searching through his memories and there's a bunch of tiny SpongeBobs running around, flipping over filing cabinets and setting things on fire.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there is 1,000 little SpongeBobs inside my brain that power it.
We're going to put I'm just going to tell you after hearing that, we're going to just put a pin in anxiety and talk about that later too.
That too.
Hey, that was the other unexpected thing with Adderall.
Yeah.
I had been diagnosed with ADHD in like my late teens and depression, and they didn't check me for ADHD at the time. Hey,
Anxiety and
turns
depression,
out-
you mean, right?
Yeah. Sorry, with anxiety and depression. I
Yeah.
think I said ADHD. I had been diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was like 19. They did not check me for ADHD. And it turns out a lot of my anxiety came from my ADHD
Yep.
because the world's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it the Triforce.
Yeah.
I call it the Triforce because if you have one of them, you probably have three of them.
But it's like,
There's-
Adderall made it so much better. I'm so much less anxious.
There's something that's like really comorbid with ADHD called rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
That's big.
And
that's
like
big for me.
that's one of the big bases for my anxiety and depression right there. Yeah. It's all connected. Time is a flat circle. Woo! I'm going to take over hosting. Anthony, what's one of your favorite things of the year?
What do you got?
I'm gonna take it down a bit from this headier thing, and I'm gonna say that one of my favorite things of the year, y'all, was the Grimace Shake TikTok trend. That was this year. Can you believe that was this year?
I'm worried if we show it, everything's going to explode. Just don't show the video. It's fine.
Oh no!
A lot of those TikToks have music on them anyways. It's
Okay.
fine.
I just love when the internet all comes together.
Yeah.
It was like just a perfect thing. It was not just a TikTok trend, because there are a lot of TikTok trends. It was a TikTok trend that somehow was anti-capitalist and internet horror
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time, where it was using that sort of like weird nexus of like nostalgia and like body horror that I think is like really, really, the internet does it exceedingly well.
Yeah.
Exceedingly well. And when the Grimace Shake thing turned into like immediately people trying the Grimace Shake and then winding up dead. People like trying the Grimace Shake and then winding up being chased by Grimace through a forest.
It's my favorite thing when the internet does it. I'm just like, this is like completely manufactured. This is complete artifice of just like, no one wanted this. This is not a supply and demand. Nobody was like, you know what we need? A Grimace Shake.
Yeah.
So like the internet will be like, we're going to mock this so hard that you're going to feel bad you had the idea.
Yes. And I mean, people were like, well, how much do we think that this was McDonald's latching onto? No. McDonald's didn't see it coming.
No,
there might have been
absolutely.
there might have been one kid at Wyden Kennedy, like one of the younger kids at Wyden Kennedy, who was just like, no, this is good. Let them keep going.
Yes.
We don't need to stop it.
But they absolutely didn't predict it because they had their own meme that they were putting together for like the grimace thing of it all, where they were like, oh, we know what our marketing angle is going to be for this. And it's going to be like a young Gen Z grimace that like does funny little tweets. And like they had a whole thing that they were doing.
And like the retro pictures of Grimace with like braces, having like his late 80s, early 90s like birthdays at McDonald's. And they were like, we're going to get millennials. We're going to get this.
And they had him typing on the Twitter as like a Twitter takeover for like a week for it, where they did the like Gen Z thing where you turn auto caps off. So everything's in lowercase.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
He was like a very cool Grimace. And everybody was like, no, your cool Grimace is actually killing people. That's what we've decided.
Actually, instead, we're going to make it body horror absurdist Grimace.
I love that the internet, like the internet's perfect. No notes. We all know that. But there is, I've always hated the concept in like advertising and stuff of like, yeah, but you're talking about it, aren't you? Right? No press is better. And I think the internet has really gone above and beyond and be like, actually, no, you don't want them talking about this.
No.
Like the way that they're talking about this one is not fun viral marketing. This is, you should be embarrassed by yourself viral marketing.
Yes.
And that makes me happy.
I think Grimace is like that. I think last year, the one that was like that was Morbius. I was obsessed with Morbius and what the internet was doing to Morbius.
Yeah, that was good.
And Sony, like, you could tell that Sony did not have the savvier marketing team like McDonald's
To
had
capitalize on it.
because Sony believed it.
They put it back in theaters.
Sony believed the fake hype, and it was so nice. So when you say no press is bad press, like Sony learned to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That no, effectively, if you're being dunked on, just get dunked on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get dunked on.
Take the dunk.
You got to let people dunk on you.
You gotta take
if
the
you
L.
fucked up, just let people dunk on you.
Can I share one that's very, very, very specific to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter started doing this thing. She's almost 4 years old. She'll be 4 years old in January. And I don't know where this came from, but she started doing this like royal voice where she'll be like, everybody, it's time for us to go to dinner. And she always like holds her hands up. And now if you will come with me, we will go. And now it's time to play in the playroom or whatever. And we're like, okay. I don't know where this came from, but suddenly she is presenting. And sometimes she'll start doing it really quietly, like while we're having a conversation about something else. And you'll be talking about, and they just slowly like realize like that she's doing this whole scene over here as whoever this person is. And it's just, I don't know what this character is or what they're doing, because she'll be other characters. She, for some reason, got really obsessed during Halloween. We watched Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time, and she loves Sally. Like, like we got her this Sally costume for Halloween, and she wears it every day.
Yeah,
Nice.
And gets mad when we have to like wash it and stuff. And so she will. This is another fun thing. The thing I like is that my daughter's great. She'll
That's
do this
great.
thing where she's like, I'll be Sally. Do you want to be somebody? Who do you want to be?
Okay.
And what she wants me to say is Jack Skellington.
Of course.
Sure.
And then she'll be like, you can be whoever you want to be. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be Superman. She's like, no, but you can be whoever you want to be. And that'll keep going until I
Until
say
you
Jack
get it right.
Skellington.
Can you
And
be someone
then-
else from The Nightmare Before Christmas?
No, she wants me to be Jack
Truly just
Skellington.
Jack.
So you can be anyone who you want to be as long as that is Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, well, I'm emptying the dishwasher. So she's like, oh, I'm going to be Sally. Who do you want to be? And I'm like, well, I can't be anybody right now. I have to be Daddy right now so I can finish like making dinner. And then, so she shifted it. Now she says, and if you want to, do you want to be somebody? And I'm like, I can't right now. She's like, okay. And then she'll say, but later, who would you love to be? And I'm like, oh, later I'd love to be Jack Skellington. She's like, okay.
Later, who would you love to be is exactly what I've been working on in therapy for 3 years.
Yeah, right?
Like, I love this little like regal royal voice though.
Yeah.
And like once a kid finds something that they love and they latch onto, but also when they find something that works, like there's nothing that I love more than when a kid figures out that they found something that makes you laugh and they
Yeah.
don't necessarily know why it makes you laugh, but they know that it works. And so
Here's
they
the
just
best
do
part.
it all the time.
She doesn't do it to make us laugh. It is purely for her own enjoyment and benefit. She makes up
that.
songs all the time, like full-blown music and lyrics, and she'll sing them like to herself. And if you're like, that's a great song, she'll stop and kind of like get a little bit nervous because she didn't realize anybody was listening.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and then she'll like go do something else. It's not for you.
Yeah. She's just
She's
in her
just
world.
doing a thing that's making her happy. And it's so fucking funny.
Now, somebody in the
Oh,
live,
and if you want to, I've eaten all of my dinner. I'm full. And you're like, okay, cool, man.
yeah.
That sounds great.
Zealous in the live studio audience about the regal voice says, that's actually the most McElroy thing I've ever heard.
Hands down, 100%. 100%.
Like that honestly feels like, I mean, that feels like a Justin voice to me. Like,
Yeah.
like, do you like, is it weird to like watch little behaviors that are clearly like, oh, I don't know where that came from, but somehow it came from me.
Well,
like-
so the other half of this is BB, who is 7,
Yeah.
is my tiny clone.
Yeah.
Like, is so 100% me. And she's so smart. And so like recently she was like, because I call her little Tiny Travis. And she'll be like, I think you call me Tiny Travis, not because I acted like you when you were a kid, but I act like a smaller version of you now. I'm like, yeah, that's dead on, kid. You absolutely nailed it.
Damn, called
And
out.
like but like literally it is, God has both blessed me and cursed me with a tiny version of myself. Because there are
Yeah.
moments where I'm like, I'm so blown away. I'm so impressed by you. So amazing. And also just shut up. If you could just shut up for like 2 minutes, that would be incredible.
Genetics are wild.
Genetics are
Yeah.
wild.
My sister made a tiny me. And I know that must be the worst thing for her. I know that has to piss her off so badly. She has an 11-year-old daughter that is exactly like me. Like, I don't have to be around. I don't have to be anything. She will discover all of the things that I loved as a child. That child will be digging in the garage and find shoes of mine from when I was her age and be like, this is what I wear every day now. I'm not even there. She's just
Amazing.
the smallest me.
Yeah.
She's identical to me. She's a nerd. She's a complete nerd. My sister is my polar opposite in this world. We have nothing in common. And I just look at her standing next to her daughter and I'm like, I guess it's time to figure out how to like it now.
Nice.
Yeah, how's that going for you?
That I run into it. It's so funny to me. Like BB is going through a similar experience I went through when Griffin was born, because Griffin was always so naturally cherubic, so cute. Like we have home videos of him at like 2, and Dad will just be like carry the camera moving across the room, and Griffin point it at Griffin for half a second, and video camera you'll just hear Griffin go cheese as the camera moves past him. And meanwhile, now my daughter BB has to deal with like Dot has dimples and is this little cute perfect face, and like recently we were at one of BB's soccer games and this lady was just like, well, aren't you cute, to Dot, and Dot just goes, I have dimples, and I'm like, what the fuck, where'd that come from, what's happening? And like other children, this is not an exaggeration, will bring toys to Dot and set them at her feet to watch her smile. And it's just like, I love it, but I, on a much deeper level, I hate it very much.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like my
This
daughter
could go a
is-
few ways.
everything just gets handed to her, and then someday she's going to be like 16 and an adult is going to tell her like, no, you can't turn your homework in late. What are you talking about? And she's like, what? No, but I'm allowed to do whatever I want.
It's going to
I don't get in
destroy her
trouble.
universe.
Yeah. And she's like, wait, I thought that's not, did you not see the dimples? And like, I smiled, and then I get to be late to class whenever I want. What are you talking about?
I love it.
A rude awakening, or maybe not. Maybe
not.
I'll just keep working.
Listen, I used to have some anger for people who lived in the attractive or charismatic bubble, and now I'm just, or some resentment, and now I'm just like, you know what? Good for you. I'm glad you don't have to know what it's like out here. I'm happy for you.
You're charismatic as hell. What are you talking about?
Well, you are, but I also know that you had to grow into it.
It's true.
Like, you've told a lot of stories of you as a kid, and I love stories of baby Anthony, but he was a little dork.
Yeah. Insufferable. An insufferable little dork.
Yeah.
But I think that that's an ADHD thing of just like if you're the type of person we are and you have ADHD, right? You're coming on so strong and interested in like the dorkiest shit when you're a kid, right? But then as that translates, like that enthusiasm, that outgoingness goes from being like dorky and nerdy as a kid to like fun to be around in the like spaces that we circle through.
Yeah.
Where people are just like, oh, it's a nerd who's outgoing and funny and like excited to talk about the stuff that they love.
Yeah.
It becomes a treasured, like a treasured kind of character at a party, at an event.
It's
that people
interesting
want
to be
host
interested.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to be around people that are interested, for sure. But I think it's an important journey to go through of not hitting in every crowd.
Yeah.
Well, because I see it with BB, right? Where BB, grown-ups love talking to her, right?
Yeah.
Because she can like have a full-blown conversation about like the things that she loves, or like talking to them about like she'll ask questions about them, and like it's that like, oh, she's really fun to talk to. And I guarantee kids her age are like, oh, coming on a bit strong, this nerd, this weirdo. And it's like, someday though, like when you're like 22, you're going to be like owning the room.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, right now, other 7-year-olds aren't on your level. That's because you're way above that level. Like you're up here and they're down there. So they're going to give you a hard time. But every adult would much rather talk to you than talk to any other 7-year-old they know.
Yeah, that's a plight. For me, a neurodivergent thing that I went through a lot, of being the adultified child that was like, I don't understand why I cannot connect and relate to other children. It's great now.
Yeah.
Great now.
Absolutely lovely.
Hit at parties now.
Except now I ask little kids for their business card and stuff, because I
stuff.
still don't know what to do.
I still don't understand when that really.
Well, if a kid doesn't have a business card, you got to be grinding. That's
Listen,
a
it's
real
Sigma
beta
grind
maneuver.
set.
Yeah.
Sigma
You
grind
got to
set.
be a Sigma 6-year-old.
That's right. Saige, would you mind if I did one for both of us?
Sure.
To round this out?
I was like, I think we had time to. It's 10:22, but yeah.
We got time for
Maybe
one
we
more.
could hit
I think
two
this is
more,
one for
but
both of us.
Okay.
2023, I want to say one of our favorite things of the year, the year of unionization.
Yeah.
The year of the fucking worker figuring out to stop being fucking thrashed on by giant corporate overlords. We're seeing it in every industry. Obviously, the biggest one was entertainment, but man, we're watching Starbucks. We're watching Starbucks try to unionize, and we're watching them like running scared. We're watching a lot of things happening in the game industry, in various areas of creativity and performance. And even just things like UPS drivers, hotel workers, everybody is figuring out that they're getting kind of screwed and that it's time to bring back strong unions and be working together.
I think there's like a larger thing to this that's led to like the movement of unionization, because obviously unions are not a new concept, but what we did have is like the evaporation of the middle class, creating a divide in information about how to protect yourself as a worker. So the internet has created this connectivity of like, oh, I know what other people are getting now.
Yeah.
I know what I'm missing out on, and I know who's trying to fuck me because somebody else that had the time to research it while I was breaking my back at work all day. It's something that like I talk about a lot, is like the cost of information and how much privilege there is in having the time to be like well researched and knowledgeable about things, and how intentional of a device that is to keep away from the lower class.
Yeah.
If we continue to work more hours and we continue to be exhausted when we get home from work, and our weekends involve just being able to manage the basics of our household, we don't have the time to be an informed citizen enough to self-advocate. So the internet is slowly lowering that barrier and passing around that information where it's like, hey, we don't all individually have to have the time to read 100 books on how the economy works and doesn't work for us.
Or interpret the law, or interpret contracts.
Everything, yeah, all of it. But if somebody does, we can pass it around.
To tie it back to the commentary things, right? Of like, there's a commentary channel called Legia. Her name is Legia Miller, and she does like breaking down stuff from a legal perspective of like, this is the reason this like is happening this way, or it goes back to she did a great one about like the witch trials.
Yeah.
Of like, this is what happened during the witch trials. But I think it's the reason I am so heartbroken about what is going on with X now.
Yeah.
Because I think that social media, for all of its faults and problems, and there are many, the ability for like marginalized people to connect no matter where they live, right? And people to talk about their working conditions at this place compared to this place, and share information about the struggles they're going through, or just like say, hey, I hope, you're doing okay, using these things and connecting with people you never would have without the internet, right? If you were just in a small town of like 1,200 people, right? You never would have been able to find out that there were other people out there like you, right? And then like, not that it was perfect before, obviously, but to see so much of that start to feel disjointed as like the main social media hub went from being like, yeah, there's opinions, but there's also information, there's also connection, to now just being like, it's just opinions and they're all wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that kind of shit of like, one of my hosts for 2024 is that we get back to some kind of main centralized, like, this is where everybody goes to talk about a thing, good or bad.
Yeah.
This is where the information is, and this is where we're sharing stuff with each other.
I hope so as well.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I agree. It's more than like losing a social media platform is like, I mean, I don't know. I can speak personally too that like I've been on Twitter since I was 13 years old. So it's like Twitter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Also, yeah. But like Twitter has been such a central hub of information and like news realistically. And whether it's responsible or not to be getting your news from Twitter, for a time it was this accessible point of like, oh, I don't have to hear this from a mainstream news source that we know is bought by advertisers. I can hear this directly from people affected.
Yeah.
And it's been very
especially
important
as a creator.
Like, right. It's been so important through so many conflicts and legal battles and things like that to hear from people on the ground in it. When it's like, oh, hey, the only way that I'm going to hear from Palestinian people in Gaza is potentially on this social media platform.
Right.
The only way that we were going to hear from people in Ukraine was people on the ground there speaking true information that was conflicting with what our news sources were saying a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's tricky.
People impacted.
It's tricky because you want something that's centralized enough where everybody's on it and everybody knows to check it. But the problem with centralization, particularly with a capitalist society, is Twitter has always had an owner. Twitter has always had control over their platform and what people say on their platform.
Right.
And you're going to go through this thing where, Facebook likes to talk about how Facebook was partially responsible for the Arab Spring. And it's like, yeah, that's true.
They don't like to talk about how they're also responsible for 2016.
Yeah, they don't like to talk about, the selling of data and the mining of data that led to like election fraud and election tampering and things like that. So yeah, I want us to have a centralized thing. And to kind of bring it back to the unions, one of the things that my mom says about it all the time is like, it's like we had unions, we understood unions, and then because unions got progressively weaker over 30 years, 40 years, human memory is so short. Living human memory is so short.
Yeah.
And people forget why they have unions, or the union like doesn't feel like it's doing a lot at the time, so they disband a union. And then over time, those protections erode and they go away, and people say, what happened to the protections? And it's because we've always needed a voice for people under this system.
Yeah, well, it's not
Also, less money going into the government from businesses that benefit from not having unions.
There we go.
Yes.
It's not that people just forgetting that unions are good. It's that we have new people entering the workforce every single year. And these large corporations count on those people not knowing what it was like beforehand. And they count on them coming in underpaid and mistreated without like comparison of sorts. You know, they count on the new workforce coming in that no longer expects a 401k, that no longer expects severance and like guaranteed benefits, and that there's full-time work for people with no health insurance.
Yeah.
So like they're relying on taking advantage of like each new generation of workers that have never experienced the power of a union, and they're covering that up on purpose. All these corporations are like, no, you don't even, that's kind of like we don't really, that's not really for you. It's not.
Also, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, but having worked many retail jobs, literally being told like, if they find out you're talking to a union person or about union, we'd probably have to fire you.
Yep.
And like when you're like 19, you're like, oh,
Okay, then I won't.
don't have money. I very much need money.
Yeah.
I don't want to get fired. Thank you very much.
And you don't know that if somebody says something like that to you, you're supposed to call a labor board. You're supposed to
You don't know your rights as a worker, because who would have told you your rights as a worker? The union.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like we have to, it's something that isn't learned in school and is one of the most crucial things. We talked recently about media literacy, and I do think that there being something that sets you up for like surviving capitalism.
Yeah.
Like navigating a job and a workforce and your labor rights and the rights to like your treatment in any way is not something that's covered in high school, and that's bananas. It's not covered in college either.
No.
Yeah.
No, nobody teaches you like working life skills, because along the way there became this thing in America where learning working skills was considered lower than education. It was considered a low education. It was considered a tradesman education, a journeyman education, an apprenticeship. That's not what you went to. That's not what you went to a school for. That's not what you went to a university for. That was for white collar education, where you don't need to know such things.
Yeah.
And there's so many connections you can make. I know we have to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
But that thing, as a homeowner, I have had to learn in the last 5 years the painful lesson of planned obsolescence and getting these technicians who come out to like service your HVAC unit, right? And they never went through training. They just got a job at the place. And they're like, I don't know, man. And then the next day they send out a guy who's been working with HVAC units for 30 years. And he's like, oh, you just have to like rewire this and it's done.
Yeah.
And like the gulf between those things of like, it's like, this is going to break down and nobody knows how to fix it because they're not trained in it.
Yeah.
But it's just going to cost you more money to buy a new one when you didn't need to, which creates more waste and like more spending on things you didn't need to spend on. And it's all connected, baby.
It's
Watch
all
more
connected.
YouTube commentary. They'll break it all down.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, since we're out of time.
Fuck Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, do you want to just read the other things on your list and we won't commentary on it?
Oh.
Hot Irish mustard.
Okay.
Tate's Butter Crunch cookies.
Nice.
BB's missing teeth.
Oh, cute.
It's all 4 of her front teeth.
Oh my God.
Lost all 4
Oh
of
my
them.
God.
And toaster strudel with the icing you put on yourself. I bought it for my kids and they're like, I don't want to eat that. And I'm like, more for me. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I had hot girl walks with my hot girl headphones on.
Okay.
That's been a huge change in my life this year. I love to go on little walks now. It's good for my mental health. The death of Henry Kissinger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that one too.
And our studio. We opened our studio this year in February of 2023. And so opening the studio, running this studio is my favorite of the year.
Nice. I had this notebook, my traveler's notebook, which is
nice.
really, really helped me get organized and do ADHD brain things. I had the death of Henry Kissinger, and I got myself all of the things at my house to make my little matcha honey latte in the morning, to make myself my little treat, because the price of little treats is getting out of control. and I make a better little treat than anybody in the neighborhood does.
Hell yeah.
I love
That's
that.
great. I love that. For the BBs in the live studio audience, we would love it if you would share some of your favorites of the year. You can share that in our Discord. Travis, thank you so much for joining us and for being patient with us through our technical struggles this morning.
Everybody remember to go
problem at
check out bit.ly/candlenights2023.
we do right? Yeah.
To see about the show and check it out. It's a very fun show every year.
You can also go, once again, ceasefiretoday.com to find out resources and ways that you can help push for a ceasefire.
Woo.
All right. Thanks a lot, Trav. I love you, buddy. Hope we get to hang soon.
Okay. And
Yeah,
we're
let's
just gonna
do it.
we're gonna call it here. We're gonna go to a little end screen for now, and that's gonna be it. We love you all so much. Thank you for joining us, Travis. We're gonna link all the stuff. We've got Ceasefire Today in there. We've got links in there for you personally. And
Why am I waving with that hand? I wave with this hand.
You can have whatever hand you can wave with whatever hand you want.
I
friend.
can't. I'm so bad with my left hand.
Okay. All
Everybody,
right.
please say a regal goodbye as though you were Travis's daughter.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
for
Okay.
Thank you, BBs,
Bye.
for watching the show. We'll see you again on Wednesday.
Goodbye.
In the Discord
Goodbye.
later today. Share your favorites with us. Goodbye.